Welcome to yet another edition of the SABC News COVID-19 Global Wrap, where myself, Babalola Phaka, and my colleague Busisiwe Khatebe bring you highlights of stories which dominated news headlines with regards to the coronavirus pandemic. Before we get into it, let us have a look at global stats. The world currently sits at over 10.9 million confirmed cases, with over 6 million recoveries and over 520,000 deaths. South Africa has over 168,000 confirmed cases, with over 81,000 recoveries and over 2,800 deaths.
In South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa has urged citizens not to panic nor be alarmed by the rising number of COVID-19 infections in the country. The president says compared to other countries, South Africa's infections are still under control and manageable. And according to the Department of Health, Gauteng is expected to soon become the epicenter of the virus in the country due to a rise in daily recorded infections. Health officials in the province are putting further measures to assist those infected with COVID-19. Meanwhile, the Economic Freedom Fighters is calling on government to take the country back to level 5 national lockdown, a call necessitated by a rapid rise in infections. Health Minister Zweli Mkhize has warned that the COVID-19 pandemic is expected to impact the country until the end of next year and urges people to take the necessary precautions to protect themselves. And lastly, the World Health Organization chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says the COVID-19 pandemic is not even close to being over. He says that most people remain susceptible and that the virus still has a lot of room to move.
The worst is yet to come. I'm sorry to say that, but with this kind of environment and condition, we fear the worst. And that's why we have to bring our acts together and fight this dangerous virus together.
Now to the rest of Africa. The continent has now recorded over 435,000 confirmed COVID-19 cases, with over 209,000 recoveries and over 10,600 deaths. According to a report by the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights, 10 people have allegedly died at the hands of the police while using excessive, arbitrary and unjustified force to enforce lockdown measures. After a 3-month closure, Egypt has reopened international flights and major tourist attractions, including the pyramids of Giza. Nigerian citizens can now travel between its states outside curfew hours as authorities moved to relax some COVID-19 restrictions. In Senegal, President Macky Sall lifted a state of emergency over COVID-19 to support the struggling economy.
In international news, as the United States of America still grapples with mounting cases, over 2.8 million people have contracted the virus, with more than 1 million recoveries and over 131,000 deaths. While cautiously optimistic about the readiness of a vaccine as early as next year, U.S. top infectious disease expert Anthony Fauci warned that cases could double to 100,000 per day if the current surge spirals out of control. This as the U.S. has recently recorded an average of 40,000 new COVID-19 cases daily, with states such as California, Arizona, and Texas emerging as new epicenters of the pandemic. And in a tweet where President Donald Trump lamented his increasing anger towards China, citizens have grossly criticized his somewhat nonchalant response to the pandemic in the U.S. In Asia, fans of Mickey Mouse and other beloved characters were ecstatic over the reopening of the Tokyo Disney Resort as it welcomed back visitors after a 4-month closure. The resort will operate at 50% capacity until the foreseeable future, with precautions such as mandatory face masks and temperature screenings upon arrival to be adhered to. And finally, in Europe, Spain and Portugal have now officially reopened their borders to all travellers after a 3-month-long closure. The British government says it will also outline plans for air brigades that will allow people to not face quarantine after having gone on holiday to certain countries.